share us round. Now tap that screen, tap it, tap that screen, yeah, tap it. It's your warm-up routine. Gang Gremlins on the scene.
Welcome Gaga and Grumps to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says welcome Gremlins to the game grotto. Take a seat, grab your daily heart, claim your points and prepare to play.
Welcome Grumps to Wordle with Gaga.
Now tap that screen, tap it, tap that screen, yeah, tap it. Gang Gremlins come and let's go. Now tap that screen, tap it, tap that screen, yeah, tap it. Let's see those team stickers.
Gaga Grumps says treasure box up if you need a coin for your daily heart.
Gang Gremlins on the scene. Now tap that screen. Now tap that screen.
Gaga Grumps says hi Buswater, how goes it?
Grumps says it will create one heart. Welcome LL Creative to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says creative in the house.
Welcome Gremlins to
Gaga Grumps says let's get those shares out.
Gremlins to the game grotto. Welcoming guys.
Gaga Grumps says welcome Gremlins to the game grotto. Take a seat, grab your daily heart, claim your points and prepare to play.
Tap that screen, yeah, tap it. It's your warm-up routine.
Grumps says at Buswater Momo welcome back.
Gang Gremlins on the scene. Gang Gremlins on the scene. Gang Gremlins on the scene. Now tap that screen. Tap it, tap that screen. Yeah, tap it. Gang Gremlins come and let's go. Now tap that
Welcome PH to Wordle with Gaga.
PH7 says hello.
Let's see those team stickers flow.
Grumps says it lives higher.
Gang Gremlins on the scene.
Gaga Grumps says hey there PH7.
Welcome Libs to Wordle with Gaga. Grumps says at PH7 hey there.
Now tap that screen. Now tap
Gaga Grumps says we drove past a business called PH7 earlier and thought about you.
Gang Gremlins on the scene.
Gaga Grumps says hey Libs, nice to see you.
Welcome H to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says thanks for doing your daily heart PH7. Gaga Grumps says hey H, long time no see.
Grumps says at H heyer.
Gaga Grumps says so who is ready to play Wordle. Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now.
Welcome Isaac to Wordle with Gaga.
Isaac says hi.
Gaga Grumps says the first game of the day is starting with the last letter of the alphabet. Z.
Grumps says at Isaac hey.
Gaga grumps says hi Isaac, how goes it?
Isaac says I'm good.
Gaga grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Like a thong, race to the top, like a thon. Tap and don't stop, like a thon. Who will be crowned like a thon? Gremlin renowned, like a thon. Fingers on fire, like
Welcome to Wordle with Gaga.
Gremlins don't tire, like a thon. Hearts be flying, like a thon. Gremlins defying.
Gaga grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance.
Lights the fire, lights the fire, lights the fire.
Gaga grumps says your word starting with Z please PJ7.
PH7 says Zorro.
Gaga grumps says if your word is being filtered, try I'd like word.
PH7 says I'd like Zorro.
Gaga grumps says haha, it might be a name. Gaga grumps says it was valid. A lonely yellow O in need of a home. PH7 says olive.
Little Creative One says Yodel.
Gaga grumps says float fits. Gaga grumps says O moved into number 3, L moved in next door.
Welcome Mabel the puppy to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga grumps says clown works.
Mabel the puppy says glows. Welcome Oakley to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga grumps says no change. Gaga grumps says hi there Mabel.
Welcome Wills to Wordle with Gaga.
A Creative One says block.
Gaga grumps says no
Welcome
plurals in
Muslin to Wordle
Mabel.
with Gaga.
Ms. Lynn says bloom.
Mabel the puppy says glows.
Isaac says globe.
Gaga grumps says hi Mrs. LHYN, nice to see you.
Ms. Lynn says slope.
Gaga grumps says no C for block.
Isaac says I think globe is a good one.
Gaga grumps says slope is a shout. Gaga grumps says GG gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
It's playtime!
Good game.
Gaga is in the box! Don't let her
Good game.
lose!
Good game.
Grumps is on the buttons! Don't let him push yours! Are you ready to play? Let those stickers fly! Which team are you on? Team Gaga, give a cheer. Team Grumps, are you here? Team Gaga, are you ready? Team Grumps, are you steady? Game! Gremlins,
Gaga grumps says do the do for Gaga. Share the live chat for chat and shower her with roses and GGs.
Team Gaga, Gaga, Gaga,
Good game.
give a cheer. Team Grumps, are you here? Team Gaga, are you ready? Team Grumps, are you steady? Game! Gremlins, let's go! Game! Gremlins, let's go!
Gaga grumps says if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily heart while I set up the next grid.
Game! Gremlins, let's go! Game! Gremlins, let's go!
Gaga grumps says let's play Wordle. Gaga grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now. Gaga grumps says we are starting with A. E. Gaga grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Like a thon, race to the top, like a thon, tap and don't stop, like a thon, who will be crowned like a thon, gremlin renowned like a thon, fingers on fire like a thon, gremlins don't tire like a thon, hearts
Gaga grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance.
Grump says welcome each and everyone. I missed the last 5 minutes. Someone dared to ring the doorbell.
Gaga grumps says your word starting with E please Isaac.
Nightmare Bab says greet.
Gaga grumps says hi there Liam.
Isaac says let's do Earth.
Gaga grumps says Earth you got.
Welcome enter Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga grumps says nice start, 3 yellow ears.
Amelia says reach.
Miss Lynn says realm.
Gaga grumps says hi there Amelia.
Amelia says never mind.
Gaga grumps says reach fits.
Welcome Amelia Jellyfish to Wordle with Gaga.
Nightmare Bab says reach.
Gaga grumps says thanks for seeing it when I didn't.
Ms. Lynn says no H.
Gaga grumps says realm does fit however.
Amelia says ready.
Thanks for
Gaga
the follow.
grumps says alive's at number 3. E and R still homeless.
Nightmare Bab says learn.
Ms. Lynn says scaray.
Nightmare Bab says learn.
Gaga grumps says thanks for following Mabel.
The creative one says scare.
Amelia says piano.
Gaga grumps says can't be learn. E doesn't go there.
Amelia says piano.
Nightmare Bab says try learn mum.
Gaga grumps says scare is a good shout.
Amelia says piano.
Gaga grumps says it can't be learn N.
Amelia says piano.
Ms. Lynn says crave.
Isaac says Craig.
Nightmare Bab says cared.
Gaga grumps says E lives at number 5. Added a homeless C.
Miss Lynn says grace.
Well, creative one says grace.
Amelia says crave.
Gaga grumps says grace fits.
Welcome hello to Wordle with Gaga.
Hello says 67.
Good game.
Gaga grumps says GG gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Good game.
A Wordle with Gaga. A Wordle with Gaga. Will the
Hello says you're so bad.
A random star chosen by fate.
Gaga grumps says oh the baddest.
It's a live date.
A Wordle with Gaga. A Wordle with Gaga. A Wordle with Gaga.
Hello says I'm just joking.
Gaga grumps says do the daily Wordle. I post mine on my page and would love you to share your results.
Get it in 3. It's do or die.
Gaga grumps says don't take my bad away.
A pretty sky.
Gaga grumps says if you haven't done it yet grab your daily heart while I set up the next grid. Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle. Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now.
Amelia says it's gonna be an O or F or G.
Welcome
Gaga Grumps says
LINDALYNNOHIO
we're
to
starting
Wordle
with
with
A.
Gaga.
D.
Lyndall in Ohio says donut.
Gaga Grumps says thanks for following Linda. Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Linda Lynn, Ohio says welcome.
Like a thorn, race to the top, like a thorn. Tap and don't stop, like a thorn. Who will be crowned like a thorn? Gremlin renowned, like a thorn. Fingers on fire, like a thorn. Gremlins don't tire.
Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance.
Lyndall in Ohio says heart heart.
Gaga Grumps says your word starting with D, please Grumps.
Grumps says douse.
Gaga Grumps says douse you got.
Amelia says alone.
Gaga Grumps says E lives at number 5 Wordle Street. O needs a new home.
Muslin says choke. Grumps says olive.
Amelia says Oloni.
Ms. Lynn says hole.
A creative one says chime.
Amelia says alone.
Linda in Ohio says alone.
Gaga Grumps says alone fits.
Grumps says it ill creative one needs an O.
Gaga Grumps says O moved into number 3.
Ms. Lynn says chokey.
Gaga Grumps says Grove works.
Lyndall in Ohio says groove.
Gaga Grumps says we have a yellow V in need of a home.
Miss Lynn says evoke.
Well, Creative One says evoke.
Lyndall in Ohio says evoke.
Gaga Grumps says evoke is a good shout. Gaga Grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Welcome, Gremlins, to the game grotto. Welcome, Gremlins, to the game grotto. Welcome in, guys.
Gaga Grumps says welcome Gremlins to the game grotto. Take a seat, grab your daily heart, claim your points and prepare to play.
Isaac says, how can I fix my deposit? It's a bit delayed for me.
Game gremlins on the scene. Game gremlins on the scene. Game gremlins on the scene. Now tap that screen. Tap it, tap that screen. Yeah, tap it. Game
Gaga Grumps says treasure box up if you need a coin for your daily heart.
Tap it, tap that screen. Yeah, tap it. Let's see those team stickers flow. Game gremlins on the scene. Now tap that screen. Now tap that screen.
Gaga Grumps says try going out and back in or we're starting out rising.
Now tap that screen. Gang gremlins on the scene.
Gaga Grumps says if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily heart while I set up the next grid.
Isaac says at Gaga Grumps or.
Grumps says at Isaac not much. I feel it helps to close the app and reopen it, if anything.
Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle. Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now.
Grumps says at Isaac it also seems TT is worse on Wi-Fi than in 5G.
Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. B. Linda Lynn Ohio says brain. Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Like a thon, race to the top, like a thon. Tap and don't stop, like a thon. Who will be crowned like a thon? Gremlin renowned, like a thon. Fingers on fire, like a thon. Gremlins don't tire, like a thon. Hearts beat flying, like a thon.
Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance.
Welcome NUFC Life to Wordle with Gaga.
Lights the fire, lights the fire, lights the fire.
Gaga Grumps says your word starting with B please Isaac.
Grumps says treasure box is open.
Gaga Grumps says NUFC long time no see.
Isaac says blown.
Gaga Grumps says blown you got.
Grumps says at NUFC for life welcome back.
And UFC for life says at Gaga and Grumps you all right.
Gaga Grumps says O lives at number 3N is homeless.
NUFC 4LIFE says prone.
Isaac says drone.
And UFC for LIFE says probe.
Gaga Grumps says I'm good. I bit tired and poor, went to Costco earlier.
Welcome Chapman to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says prone fits.
NUFC 4LIFE says at Gaga and Grumps how is Grumps?
Chapman says love the lives. Gaga Grumps says look at that 4 greens.
Isaac says phone. Chapman says phone.
Gaga Grumps says thanks for the kisses Chapman.
Well, Creative One says phone.
Gaga Grumps says you can come again. Gaga Grumps says phone is in the grid. Now give a Gaga her fireworks.
Fireworks for Gaga. It's a performance and
Grumps says at UFC for life someone has had the ball to ring the doorbell half an hour ago. The nerve of some people.
Wordle within 3, so gifts explode with glee.
Gaga Grumps says Wordle in 3. Let's see those fireworks. Gifts and emojis will explode on Gaga's face.
Fireworks for Gaga. Fireworks for Gaga. From a single rose to a whole bouquet. Anything will be okay. If you can, that's okay. Smileys in chat still win the day. Fireworks for Gaga.
Good game. Good game.
Fireworks for Gaga.
Good game.
Gaga Grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Fireworks for Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says if you haven't done it yet grab your daily heart while I set up the next grid. Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle.
Welcome Crystal to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now. Gaga grumps, says Crystal in the house.
Welcome to Wordle with Gaga. Grumps says at Crystal, welcome back.
Crystal says tie.
Gaga grumps, says we are starting with A. C. Gaga grumps, says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Like a thumb, race to the top, like a thun. Tap and don't stop, like a thun. Who will be crowned like a thun? Gremlin renowned like a thun. Fingers on fire like a thun. Gremlins don't tire like a thun. Hearts beat flying.
Gaga grumps, says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance. Gaga grumps, says wow, you smashed 2 leg goals while I wasn't looking. Gaga grumps, says your word starting with C, please grumps.
Grumps says crown.
Gaga grumps, says crown you got.
Grumps says as I am wearing.
It's a Wordle wipeout. No letters to
Gaga
shout.
grumps, says whiteouts in the chat.
Lost in the grid, can't figure it out.
Creative one says paint.
Oh no. Wipeout.
Grumps says my first ever wipeout. I feel so grown up.
A creative one says paint. Isaac says plain.
Gaga grumps, says haha. Isaac says nanometer no N. Gaga grumps, says no N for paint.
Or creative one says paint.
Gaga grumps, says peach fits. Gaga grumps, says a yellow are in need of a home. 9 letters out of the game.
Isaac says stall.
Isaac says NM no A in 3.
Gaga grumps says I can't go there in stall. Gaga grumps says how about salty?
Isaac says if it's salty. Crystal says daily. Crystal says NM.
Gaga grumps says alives at number 2 and Y in 5. S is homeless.
Welcome Weather to Wordle with Gaga. Weather says hello.
LL Creative 1 says no L.
Gaga grumps says hey there weather.
Crystal says double S.
Grumps says at weather welcome back.
Gaga grumps says oh was that a word suggestion or a greeting weather lol.
A creative one says Daisy.
Gaga grumps says if it's double S it can only be gassy.
LL Creative 1 says Daisy.
Crystal says Daisy.
Gaga grumps says Daisy works. Gaga grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Gaga is in the box. Don't let her lose. Grumps is on the buttons.
Or Creative 1 says yes, my first one.
Are you ready to play? Let those stickers fly.
Gaga grumps says doobadoo for Gaga. Share the live, chat the chat, and shower her with roses and GGs. Gaga grumps says well done creative. Gaga grumps says if you haven't done it yet grab your daily heart while I set up the next one. Gaga grumps says let's play Wordle. Gaga grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now.
Isaac says it thinks starting letter will be H.
Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. H looking very much like an E. Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Like a thumb, race to the top, like a thun. Tap and don't stop, like a thun. Who will be crowned like a thun? Gremlin renowned, like a thun. Fingers on fire, like a thun. Gremlins don't tire, like a thun. Hearts beat flying, like a thun. Gremlins defying.
Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance. Gaga Grumps says your word starting with E, please creative.
Oh, Creative One says eager.
Gaga Grumps says eager you got. Gaga Grumps says another yellow ear. Gaga Grumps says hi there Aurora. Gaga Grumps says frame fits. Gaga Grumps says alives at number 3 R and E still homeless.
Isaac says glare. Isaac says no G sorry.
Gaga Grumps says E can't go on the end.
Isaac says share.
Gaga Grumps says E still can't go on the end.
Welcome Thanos to Wordle with Gaga.
Thomas says reads.
Gaga Grumps says might be an REA start.
Welcome Brit to Wordle with Gaga.
Brit says beard. WSDM says ready.
Welcome
Bono says
WSDM to
reads.
Wordle with Gaga.
Crystal says reach.
Well, creative one says beard.
Gaga Grumps says hey Thanos. No plurals in Wordle. We could try ready. Gaga Grumps says ready is in the grid.
Welcome to Wordle with Gaga.
Says react.
Thanos says tears.
Gaga Grumps says E moved into number 2. R must live at number 4.
Says tears.
Crystal says R 4th.
Thanos says tears.
Brit says pearl.
Gaga Grumps says it can't be a plural Thanos.
WSDM says pearl.
Crystal says pearl.
Well, creative one says pearl.
Gaga Grumps says pearl is a good shout.
Bono says pearl.
Brit says learn.
Thanos says learn.
WSDM
Welcome
says
Boucher to
learn.
Wordle with Gaga.
Well, creative one says leery.
Goosh says learn.
Welcome Shay to Wordle with Gaga.
Chase says hi Gaga, it is Jesse.
Here says learn.
Welcome Hey. Degree to Wordle with Gaga.
LL Creative one says learn. Gaga Grumps says learn it must be. Gaga Grumps says hi Jesse, are you enjoying my game?
Crystal says we worked for that one law.
Wordle with Gaga. Wordle with Gaga. Will the
Gaga Grumps says we certainly do.
Well, creative one says we're almost at the end.
Play a part, it's a live date.
Wordle with Gaga. Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says do you do the daily Wordle? I post mine on my page and would love you to share your results.
Jay says yes I want, I next.
Get it in 3, it's do or die. Only in 3, a pretty sky.
Gaga Grumps says okay Jesse, tell money to win the light race so you can have first word.
Grump says a corgi bum with wiggle in it.
Gaga Grumps says thank you for the corgi crystal. Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle. Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now. Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. L. Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Like a thumb, race to the top, like a thon. Tap and don't stop, like a thon. Who will be crowned like a thon? Gremlin renowned like a thon. Fingers on fire like
Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance.
hearts be flying like a thon. Gremlins defying.
Welcome RODINA to Wordle with Gaga.
Blossom VXZ says hello.
Gaga Grumps says hey there Blossom.
Welcome BLSSOM.VXZ to Wordle with Gaga. Grumps says at BL0SM.VXZ welcome back.
Gaga Grumps says your word starting with L please Jesse.
BLOSOM VXE says at Grumps hello.
Chasers loved.
Gaga Grumps says loved you got. Good choice Bear Cub.
Below Som VXZ says Ty Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says treasure box up if you need a coin for your daily heart. Gaga Grumps says D lives at number 5 and L needs a new home.
BL Osambi XD says bland.
Brit says fluid. The creative one says blind.
Gaga Grumps says bland fits. Gaga Grumps says L still homeless.
Joshi says, hey granny.
Welcome ETHXN to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says fluid and blind no longer work.
Little Creative One says sleek.
Joshy says, hey baby.
Gaga Grumps says hey there Josh, welcome. Brit says guild. ETHXN says
Welcome
kiss me,
Josh
babe.
E to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says can't be sleek.
Some VX, Z says quilled.
Gaga Grumps says guild is a good shout.
Isaac says prowled.
Ixon says, I love you, babe.
Gaga Grumps says we're ending in ILD.
Joshy says, hey baby baby.
Some VXE says child.
Joshy says can I kiss you?
Gaga Grumps says why thanks, you start sending those kisses to prove it.
Ixon says baby kiss 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 me.
Crystal says child.
Gaga Grumps says you can send the blower kisses lol.
If you would join us.
Joshy says kiss 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 me.
Gaga Grumps says child works.
Usam VXZ says child.
Creative One says child.
Gaga Grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Joshy says hey baby boo.
ETHXN says ILOVEYOUDYKISSM.
Joshy says UW Kidder.
Creative One says trolling.
Welcome Larissa Joy to Wordle with Gaga.
BL Some VX, Z says mute the lovers they're trolling.
Gaga Grumps says don't go overboard, Grumps says the jealous type, but he does have happy fingers. Gaga Grumps says Grumps will be on the buttons. Gaga Grumps says welcome Gremlins to the game grotto. Take a seat, grab your daily heart, claim your points and prepare to play. Gaga Grumps says thanks for doing your daily heart blossom and Larissa.
Good game. Good game. Good game.
Gaga Grumps says thanks for the GG's crystal. Gaga Grumps says now who is ready to Wordle.
Isaac says me.
Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now.
Grumps says cue me.
Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. R.
BLO Som VXZ says, "Oh, I am so smart."
Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word. Gaga Grumps says Wood Blossom.
Like a thumb, race to the top, like a thun. Tap and don't stop, like a thun. Who will be crowned like a thun? Gremlin renowned like a thun. Fingers on fire like a thun.
Gaga Grumps says can you crash the fourth like goal this race?
Hearts be flying like a thun. Gremlins defying.
Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance. Gaga Grumps says your word starting with R, please, Isaac. Isaac says round. Gaga Grumps says smash the fourth like goal, your tapping fingers are rocking. Gaga Grumps says round you got. Gaga Grumps says yellow are in need of a new home.
Usam VXZ says trial.
Isaac says break.
Muslin says crisp. Gaga Grumps says trial fits.
Crystal says mixer.
Miss Lynn says terse.
Blow some BXC says Terry.
Gaga Grumps says T moved into number 1. R still homeless. Gaga Grumps says terse works. Gaga Grumps says nearly.
Ms. Lynn says 3.
Isaac says 3.
Maddie says 3.
Blow Som VXZ says Tyree.
Well, Creative 1 says 3.
Gaga Grumps says 3 it must be.
Blow Som VXZ
Welcome
says
Maddie to
Tyra,
Wordle
you're
with
free.
Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Well, some VXC says Ima go by.
Grumps is on the buttons. Don't let him push yours. Are you ready to play? Let those stickers fly.
Gaga Grumps says bye Blossom CC.
Good game. Good game.
Creative one says yes.
Good game. Good game.
Gaga Grumps says thanks for the GG's Crystal. Gaga Grumps says do the do for Gaga. Share the live, chat the chat and shower her with roses and GG's.
Don't let her lose. Grumps is on the buttons. Don't let him push yours.
Gaga Grumps says hit a wrong button
Let
there.
those stickers fly. Which team are you on? Team Gaga, give a cheer. Team Grumps, are you here? Team Gaga, are you ready? Team Grumps, are you steady? Game, Gremlins, let's go. Game, Gremlins, let's go. Team Gaga, 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 Team Gaga, give a cheer. Team Grumps, are you here? Team Gaga,
Good game.
are you ready? Team
Good game. Good game.
Gaga Grumps says
Good
let's play
game.
Wordle.
Good game. Good game. Good game.
Gaga Grumps says wow you're spoiling me today Crystal, thank you so much. Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now.
Welcome Dennis Lester to Wordle with Gaga. Welcome Dennis Lester to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. K. Gaga Grumps says hi there Dennis. Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Like a thumb, race to the top, like a thon. Tap and don't stop, like a thon. Who will be crowned?
Welcome Pebbles to Wordle with Gaga.
Gremlin renowned, like a thon. Fingers on fire, like a thon. Gremlins don't tire, like a thon.
Crystal says how many more to take the GG spot to replace Grump. Lol.
Gremlins define.
Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat now let's see your fingers dance. Gaga Grumps says problem is yours came in streaks of 25. Gaga Grumps says your word starting with K, please creative.
Good game. Good game. Good game. Good game.
Gaga Grumps says oh god, you challenged him now.
Good game.
Well, Creative One says
Good
Quran.
game. Good game. Good game. Good game. Good game.
Gaga Grumps says and they're
Good
both
game.
off.
Good game.
Gaga Grumps says Quran you got. Gaga Grumps says a yellow are in need of a new home.
Ms. Lynn says magic. Pebbles 8209 for says abide.
Well, Creative One says agile.
Gaga Grumps says I guess I'm getting a new frag today lol. Gaga Grumps says magic fits. Gaga Grumps says alives at number 2 Wordle Street.
Pebbles 82,094 says false.
Gaga Grumps says you all mad lol.
Well, Creative One says Taker.
Crystal says sorry.
Gaga Grumps says hi Pebbles.
Ms. Lynn says saute.
Gaga Grumps says fault works.
Pebbles 8209 for says hi.
Gaga Grumps says yellow L&T in need of homes.
Pebbles 80 to 1090 for says lathe.
Isaac says talks.
Miss Lynn says lathe.
Gaga Grumps says no plurals in Wordle Isaac. Gaga Grumps says lathe works.
Isaac says at Gaga, and Grumps sorry didn't know.
Gaga Grumps says L&T still homeless. Muslin says salty.
Pebbles 80 to 1090 for says Waltz.
Isaac says salty.
Gaga grumps says no problem Isaac. Gaga grumps says salty fits. Gaga grumps says was getting worried then. Salty in 5. Gaga grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Wordle with Gaga. Wordle with Gaga. Will the fireworks fly? A random star chosen by fate.
Gaga grumps says do you do the daily Wordle? I post mine on my page and would love you to share your results.
Wordle with Gaga. Wordle with Gaga. Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga grumps says if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily heart while I set up the next one.
Get it in 3. It's do or die. Only in 3.
Gaga grumps says treasure box up if you need a coin for your daily heart.
Wordle with Gaga. Wordle with Gaga. Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga grumps says let's play Wordle. Gaga grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now. Gaga grumps says we are starting with A. B. Gaga grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Like a thumb, race to the top like a thon. Tap and don't stop like a thon. Who will be crowned like a thon? Gremlin renowned like a thon. Fingers on fire like a thon. Gremlins don't tire like a thon. Hearts beat flying like a thon. Gremlins defying.
Gaga grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance. Gaga Grumps says your word starting with B, please, Isaac.
Isaac says break.
Gaga Grumps says break you got. Gaga Grumps says a yellow R in need of a new home.
Crystal says motor.
Miss Lynn says murky.
Gaga Grumps says motor fits. Gaga Grumps says O moved into number 2 Wordle Street. T and R are homeless.
Isaac says torso.
Ms. Lynn says fourth.
Isaac says NVM there's only one O.
Crystal says torso.
Crystal says no.
Miss Lynn says number 2O.
Gaga Grumps says I didn't see it.
Crystal says no 2-0.
Pebbles 80 to 1094 says Taurus.
Gaga Grumps says not sure Taurus is a word.
Crystal says Taurus.
Ms. Lynn says torch.
Miss Lynn says fourth.
O Creative 1 says torch.
Gaga Grumps says I was wrong.
Ms. Lynn says 40.
Pebbles 80 to 1094 says 40.
Crystal says 40.
Gaga Grumps says 40 is in the grid.
Grumps says at IDK, Gaga's version, hey there. Grumps says at Chris Marvin, welcome back.
Gaga Grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Welcome, Gremlins, to the game grotto. Welcome in, guys. Settle down. Grab your heartbeat. Share us round. Now tap that screen. Tap it, tap it. Tap that screen. Yeah, tap it, tap it.
Gaga
It's your
Grumps says welcome Gremlins to the game grotto. Take a seat. Grab your daily heart. Claim your points and prepare to play.
Gang gremlins on the scene. Gang gremlins on the scene. Gang gremlins on the scene. Now tap that screen. Tap it, tap it. Tap that screen. Yeah, tap it, tap it. Gang gremlins come and let's go. Now tap that screen. Tap it, tap it. Tap that screen. Yeah, tap it, tap it. Let's see those team stickers flow.
Gaga Grumps says, oh no Chris. Maybe it's Thursday Dumps Day.
Now tap that screen.
Grumps says that Chris Marvin wasn't many fireworks today so far.
Now tap that screen.
Gaga Grumps says if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily heart while I set up the next one.
Gang gremlins on the scene.
Gaga Grumps says only one fireworks today as far as I recall.
Welcome to Wordle with Gaga.
Ball says start a Wordle.
Gaga Grumps says and one wipeout. Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle. Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now.
Welcome Saram to Wordle with Gaga. Grumps says at Saram hi there. Welcome Chris
Gaga
Marvin to
Grumps
Wordle
says
with
we are
Gaga.
starting with A, W. Saram says at Grumps hi. Gaga Grumps says excuse the side mission of trying to outdo each other for top gift and streak lol.
Saram says world.
Gaga Grumps says thank you Crystal. Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Crystal says from my heart to yours.
Race to the top like a thon. Tap and don't stop like a thon. Who will be crowned like a thon?
Gaga Grumps says thanks for doing your daily heart, Saram.
Fingers on fire like a thon. Gremlins don't tire like a thon. Hearts beat flying like a thon. Gremlins defying.
Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance. Gaga Grumps says your word starting with W please Isaac.
Isaac says my fingers are starting to hurt lol.
React says words.
Isaac says waste.
Gaga Grumps says I'm so sorry Isaac, not, lol.
React says words.
Gaga Grumps says waste you got.
Welcome ReXX to Wordle with Gaga.
Well, Creative One says wanted.
Gaga Grumps says a yellow A in need of a home.
Ria 20 says apple.
Gaga Grumps says wanted is 6 letters. Gaga Grumps says hi Ria.
Serum says chart.
Well, Creative One says Ando.
Isaac says plain.
Gaga Grumps says no Eva apple.
Ria XX says plant.
Well, Creative One says Ander.
Gaga Grumps says no T for chart. Sarum says chalk. Pebbles 82094 says agony.
Ria XX says charm.
Crystal says I have to go now. Have a great day.
Isaac says plain.
Serum says chalk. Ria XX says charm.
Gaga Grumps says plain fits.
Sarum says chalk.
Gaga Grumps says N moved into number 5. Are still homeless.
Pebbles 82,094 says adore.
Serum says brain.
LL Creative One says acorn. Gaga Grumps says bye bye Crystal, thanks for coming.
Grumps says at Crystal laters, worthy gift opponent. LL Creative One says acorn.
Gaga Grumps says acorn fits.
LL Creative One says acorn.
Pebbles 82,094 says urban.
Gaga Grumps says homeless are added to our.
Good game. Good game. Good game. Good game.
Pebbles 82094
Good game.
says no.
Good game. Good game.
Pebbles 8209 says urban fits.
Gaga Grumps says urban fits. Gaga Grumps says GG's in the chat for Pebbles.
It's playtime! Gaga is in the box! Don't let her lose! Grumps is on the buttons!
Good game.
Don't let him push yours! Are you ready to play? Let those
Gaga Grumps says do the do for Gaga. Share the live chat, the chat, and shower her with roses and GGs.
Good game. Good game. Good game. Good game. Good game.
Gaga Grumps says if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily heart while I set up the next grid.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Welcome Dead Grass to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says he thought you were gone, Crystal.
Deadgrass says, hey Gaga and Grumps.
Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle. Gaga Grumps says hi there Deadgrass, nice to see you. Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now.
Crystal says I knew you would do something, Grump.
Crystal says, haha, have a nice day, I do have to go now.
Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. K.
Grumps says at Crystal have a good evening.
Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word. Crystal says tomorrow is a new day.
Like a thumb, race to the top, like a thon. Tap and don't stop, like a thon. Who will be crowned like a thon? Gremlin renowned like a thon. Fingers on fire like a thon. Gremlins don't tire like a thon. Hearts be flying like a thon. Gremlins defying.
Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance. Gaga Grumps says your word starting with K, please, Shy.
Chase says one wipeout please with kudos.
Gaga Grumps says Okadokes kudos you got. Gaga Grumps says so near. Yellow S in need of a home.
Che says so close.
Gaga Grumps says no one is on form today.
Che says sugar.
Gaga Grumps says sugar fits.
Grumps says at Che no you.
Gaga Grumps says I just had a Grumps shout in my ear.
Che says oh.
Che says we're all having a day.
MOS81 Echo says stink.
Che says
Welcome Moss
smelled.
Echo to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says, why are you doing this? There's no you. Now I'm even more deaf.
MOS81 Echo says stamp.
Gaga Grumps says no K for stink. Gaga Grumps says smelt fits.
Che says third time lucky.
Gaga Grumps says S lives at number 1. E and T need new homes.
Deadgrass says stage.
Che says stage.
Che says jinx.
Gaga Grumps says stage works. Gaga Grumps says nearly.
Che says how dare it not be stage.
MOS81 Echo says stare.
Gaga Grumps says hold on. Trap check.
Welcome Foxy
Foxy
FNAF
F
to
says
Wordle with
state.
Gaga. Grumps says state.
Foxyfnef says state.
Foxy FNAF says do a vert.
Foxy FNF says for filler.
Gaga Grumps says I see stave as well. I don't think stape is a word.
Foxy FNF says
Welcome
state.
Swapsy to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says like stave off hunger.
Blow some VXE says state.
Dead grass says state.
Grump says at Chris Marvin a vertical wooden post or plank in a building or other structure.
Good game. Good game.
Gaga Grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Wordle with Gaga. Wordle with Gaga. Ra-ra-ra. Will the fireworks fly?
Gaga Grumps says do you do the daily Wordle? I post mine on my page and would love you to share your results.
Wordle with Gaga. Wordle with Gaga. Ra-ra-ra. Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily heart while I set up the next grid.
Get it in 3. It's do or die. Only in 3. A pretty sky.
Wordle with Gaga. Wordle with Gaga. Da-da-da. Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle. Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now. Gaga Grumps says and I've just realized the time, so this will be last grid. Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. R. Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Like a thon, race to the top like a thon. Tap and don't stop like a thon. Who will be crowned like a thon? Gremlin renowned like a thon. Fingers on fire like a thon. Gremlins don't tire like a thon. Hearts beat flying like a thon.
Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance.
X Earthicals, X says Rusty.
Welcome Charlie to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says hey there Earthavil.
Welcome X. Earthavils. X to Wordle
Gaga
with Gaga.
Grumps says your word starting with R please Chris. Gaga Grumps says thanks for following Earthavil. Gaga Grumps says round you got.
It's a Wordle wipeout. No letters to shout.
Gaga Grumps says wipeouts in the chat.
Lost in the grid, can't figure it out. Oh no. Wipeout.
Gaga Grumps says now let's finish with fireworks.
Dead Grass says shape.
Gaga Grumps says round is a shape.
Welcome Decked and Discarded to Wordle with
Thanks for the
Gaga.
follow.
Gaga Grumps says Green A and E Living Street 3 and 4. Gaga Grumps says thanks for following Decked.
Dead Grass says flake.
Gaga Grumps says conflate give us fireworks. Gaga Grumps says so near, what a tease.
Camille Cheers 14 says flame.
Welcome Camille. Cheers to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says an unlucky flame.
Darky says that's a good guess.
Gaga Grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Welcome Darky to Wordle with
Grumps
Gaga.
says thanks for joining me to play Wordle. I will be back at 4 p.m. UK tomorrow for more Wordle with Gaga.
Dead Grass says thank you for the games. Have a lovely evening, both of you.
Gaga Grumps says, do you do the daily Wordle? I post mine on my page and would love you to share your results.